get ready to fight from within. You're about to go behind enemy lines.
Roger, 3-2. Reliance copies all. Go ahead. Target is surrounded by multiple firms entering what appears to be a residential area. Requesting permission to engage.
From the People's Republic of New York City, you're now going behind enemy lines with Gene Baradelli and Russ Gallo.
And you are now behind enemy lines. Hey there, how you doing, America? Gene Baradelli here with Russ Gallo. Russ, welcome back, bro.
The whole place is different. I see the chat room looks different. The website's updated. Great work, Mr.
I know.
Green.
You know what? I don't know if you know this. We have 2 chat rooms going right now. We got one live on Spreaker. We got one live on www.behindthemonlinesradio.us. Things are pretty awesome in our world lately, man.
Is that Spreaker one embedded in the website, or is that something totally different?
It's actually live on our Spreaker page. So if you go to Spreaker.com and find Behind Enemy Lines Radio, you can chat along with us as you listen live on Spreaker, or you can listen live right on our site. You can listen live on TuneIn. It's a whole new world. And you can also listen to us on replay on a number of outlets, including WNJC 1360 AM, Philadelphia's Renaissance Station. You can listen to us live on Rebooting Liberty Radio Network, on Red State Talk Radio in Studio B. I'm running out of the affiliates, man.
K98,
K98, and the now newly named High Plains Daily News and Sackheads Radio, where, by the way, we are number 1 on their top 10 list, Russ.
Oh, I was going to ask you what the denominator was. So it's 1 of 10. Okay, that's good.
That's not so bad.
That's not so bad. If it was 1 out of 3 or 2.
Hey, listen, no, it's actually more shows than that, but there's a top 10 listed, and we break the top 10 off.
I like
number
it.
Number 1. So, listen.
Speaking of top 10.
Oh, my God. Well, listen, we got so much to talk about. And thank you, President Obama, for giving us so much to talk about.
And Donald Trump.
And Marco Rubio. And believe it or not, Mike Huckabee, who, by the way, Mike Huckabee had some great comments. Let's set it up right. Let's set this up right. For those of you who know what happened, we all know what happened in San Bernardino, and the president made a speech this week. I don't feel too good about it, Russ, but I did feel good enough to make this compilation about it, just in case people were under a rock and don't know what's going on in the world. Take a listen to this, folks.
Well, let's begin by understanding the mood of the country. People are really scared and worried.
Here's what I want you to know. The threat from terrorism is real, but we will overcome it.
He keeps speaking about we can't give in to our fears.
That's what groups like ISIL are hoping for. Our success won't depend on tough talk, or abandoning our values, or giving in to fear.
Look, Mr. President, we're not afraid. We're angry. We're pissed off. We're furious. Yes. We want you to react. We want you to do something. You're afraid.
Because a growing sense that we have a president that's completely overwhelmed by them.
We cannot turn against one another by letting this fight be defined as a war between America and Islam. Muslim Americans are our friends and our neighbors, our co-workers, our sports heroes.
I think we need to have a moratorium on new immigration from the Middle East until we get a grip on who's here and whether or not they've come to attack us. And until we're certain that we're not admitting people who would attack us, I think we need to just press pause.
It sounds to me that the president is more interested in protecting the reputation of Islam than he is in protecting the American people.
And then the cynicism.
It is the responsibility of all Americans, of every faith, to reject discrimination. It's our responsibility to reject proposals that Muslim Americans should somehow be treated differently.
To spend a significant amount of time talking about discrimination against Muslims. Where is there widespread evidence that we have a problem in America with discrimination against Muslims?
Instead, we will prevail by being strong and smart.
And this is a president that called them the JV when they first emerged, ISIS did. And then just on the eve of the Paris attacks, basically argued that they were being contained, called the attacks in Paris a setback, as opposed to a widespread terrorist attack that showed real progress on behalf of ISIS.
Can you imagine FDR going before Congress and saying, we were attacked yesterday in Pearl Harbor. I really don't want to talk about who did it, But, we just want to say they were terrible people and they were thugs. Well, who was it, Mr. President? Identify your enemy, target your enemy, take your enemy out.
And, we want, we the people, the American people, whom he does not know in any intimate sort of manner. We want action. We want action against Islamic State.
For 7 years, I have confronted this evolving threat each and every morning in my intelligence briefing.
His own report by the commission by the DIA, CIA, and NSA predicted this will spread worldwide in growing numbers unless it suffers serious losses of territory in the battlefield in Iraq and Syria.
In Iraq and Syria, airstrikes are taking out ISIL leaders.
We continue to conduct very limited air assaults, and you can't just defeat them from an air perspective.
And the president tells us we're not going to put troops on the ground?
If you have a malignant tumor in your body and you do nothing to eradicate that tumor, it begins to metastasize, grow, and kill you.
There are several steps that Congress should take right away.
Gun control, that's part of the president's appeal to America from the Oval Office.
Congress should act to make sure no one on a no-fly list is able to buy a gun.
Well, it's sort of a bait and switch thing.
He announced nothing new other than we need gun control, even though it would have done nothing to prevent the attack in California.
What could possibly be the argument for allowing a terrorist suspect to buy a semi-automatic weapon?
There are people that work for DHS that are on the no-fly list, and by the way, these individuals that conducted this attack would not have been prevented from accessing their weapons.
We've decided that we're going to talk about gun control. In reality, we need to be talking about border security. We need to be talking about terrorists and how they get to our country.
After Paris, by the way, the only emotion the president ever showed on his overseas trips is when he was attacking the GOP.
We're working with friends and allies to stop ISIL's operations, to disrupt plots, cut off their financing, and prevent them from recruiting more fighters.
A lot of countries that have put their names onto a piece of paper.
With American leadership, the international community has begun to establish a process.
I mean, he honestly believes that there is a coalition fighting against ISIS. This is absurd. There is no such coalition.
The strategy that we are using now, that is how we'll achieve a more sustainable victory.
That the same strategy that has brought us to this point is the strategy he is going to continue with.
I did not feel better. I didn't feel any passion from him. I felt like he could give he could care less. He could care less.
I mean, this guy is such a total pussy. It's stunning.
I think not only did the president not to make things better tonight, I fear he may have made things worse in the minds of many Americans.
Dun-dun-dun. Wow, that's some powerful stuff. If I do say so myself,
pretty badass.
Even though I made it,
badass.
Listen, for those of you who've been living under a rock and you missed the president's address from the Oval Office, which, by the way, much different than any other presidential address from the Oval Office I can remember, standing up at a podium.
There was extra furniture.
Since when is there a podium? A podium in the Oval Office? I can't even talk right now. I'm so choked up. Listen, it's more of the same from the Obama administration. His way is the right way, and we should be more concerned about climate change and gun control at home than we should be about, oh, wait, this just in from one of our members in the chat room. Catholic University is sheltering in place right now due to a terrorist threat. Well, come on now, guys. Is he so dense and audacious that he thinks that he has the solution and it's working?
But the president in his speech, Gene, said that we have a strategy, and our strategy is working, and we have a coalition. What coalition? Let's start there. Can we talk about the coalition real quick?
Turkey.
Who's in this coalition?
Turkey.
Turkey is doing what exactly?
Shooting down Russia, Russ.
Yeah, okay.
And it's very ally-like.
Who's doing anything? And I know we've argued with some of our more rhinoceros-type friends in the past about supposed moderate Muslim nations who I would assume that they also believe are a part of this coalition along with President Obama. What coalition and what are they doing? What countries are in this coalition? And what are they doing?
A coalition implies coordinated... There's my Brooklyn coming out. Some coordinated action amongst participating nations. There's no coordination here. France goes and bombs ISIS-held territories. America goes and bombs ISIS-held territories. Sure, there may be a phone call in between them. Russia goes and bombs Syria and lets us know, hey, we're in the air over here. But that's not coordinating with our international partners.
But even more importantly, what are the Muslim nations doing to defeat ISIS?
Oh, an article came out recently that we've received little to no cooperation over the years, according to national security officials with any majority Muslim nations. Which, by the way, we left out of the portion of this speech, but President Obama specifically highlighted that we're getting help from these countries. Countries like, and there's, and don't forget, none of them. None of them.
And you mentioned Turkey. It's been widely reported that Turkey is the major purchaser of ISIS oil. So, thanks to the Turks. Great job. Our buddies. Who, by the way, are part of NATO. Aren't you glad to know that the Turks, who are shooting down Russian airplanes, are a member of NATO? Anybody ever hear of Article 5 of NATO? What's supposed to happen if a NATO ally is ever attacked?
We are compelled to come to their aid.
And that is a treaty, folks. That's not an Obama executive order. That treaty, guess what it does? Because it was ratified by the Senate, trumps the Constitution.
Don't say Trump.
We must. And I'm not saying hashtag Trump. Trumps the Constitution, small t. We are compelled to come to the aid of a fellow NATO country if attacked. So guess what? If Russia were to respond to their pilots being shot down by the Turks, the supposedly moderate Muslim Turks, we would be at war with Russia. What is going on?
There's a lot going on, Russ. And we gotta get to all of it. There was the speech was about 15 minutes long, 13 minutes long or something like that. There's so much to parse through. I mean, there's the implication that America is inherently racist against Muslims and discriminates against them. There's the hint that Congress is not doing enough and that gun control is really the answer to stopping domestic terrorist attacks here, whether they're done by foreign-born people in the country or citizens.
There's the implication that the Customs and Border Protection, along with the State Department, could somehow vet people coming into this country from Middle Eastern Islamic countries.
Yeah, exactly how you're supposed to do. Let's start with that. How are you supposed to vet a refugee, Russ, who has no paperwork, has no travel history? You can't even verify their name, let alone where they're from.
I was watching CNN earlier today because I like to punish myself.
Why would you? Yeah, why would you?
So they're talking about exactly what you were just talking about, Gene, that it's a very vigorous process. They go to the consulate and they get a background check done and they take their fingerprints and they do a criminal record check and they ask them for a bunch of information. But exactly what you just said, Gene, how do we know any of that? I was almost about to curse. How do we know any of that crap was true? Who do we check with? What agency in Syria is maintaining detailed records of young military-aged Muslims there?
Well, this leads to a very interesting question now. If you can't even vet who they are, and this comes right from our chat room, this is a reasonable question. If you can't even verify who they are, how are you going to verify that they're a Muslim or not? They can walk in and say, I'm Coptic. I'm Christian. I'm this. I'm that. You don't know.
I have a better one for you.
I mean, there is one way you know. You have a big dish of bacon right there. If they take a bite, they pass. Right? Isn't that the test?
Well,
I'm joking, folks. Send your cards and letters elsewhere.
I don't know if Gene's joking. The bacon test is not my preferred method. But here's something I'll even stipulate to all of our rhinoceros friends out there with the libs.
Wow,
that,
come on now.
Let's say the vetting worked, and we were able to vet, and we were able to look up criminal histories and known associates. Let's talk about 9/11 for a minute. I know nobody likes to go back to 9/11. It's like talking about the Nazis now. You can't even bring up the past, even when it's relevant. Let's talk about 9/11 and the hijackers. Did they sneak across the Mexican border? No. How'd they get to this country, Gene? Do you remember how the 9/11 hijackers got into this country?
They came through other countries.
And they came legally.
Yeah.
Through visas. Yeah. Through various visas, whether they were work visas, education visas. They were vetted. They were vetted. And then they flew planes into the Pentagon and the World Trade Center. And then the field in Pennsylvania, thank God those heroes stopped it. But they were vetted. So why are we to believe that we'll get it right this time?
I have no... Listen.
The woman in San Bernardino, Gene. She was vetted. She was here legally.
I don't even have the confidence for the government to get me through the DMV in less than an hour. I'm going to put international travel and national security in their hands of a TSA worker, in the hands of a Border Patrol guard who's getting documents and